Hey everyone, coming at you today with another Weiss Schwarz deck profile. This is going to be one of my other decks. It's going to be my Persona 4 deck. This is going to be the Japanese clothes slash fan build. It's going to revolve around the Persona 4 best girl Yukiko Amagi. This is a very experimental build. I haven't really played it outside of playing with family and friends. So I'm still kind of testing out the ratios and everything. So I'll try my best to explain why I picked the ratios that I did, why I thought the deck was good enough for me to, pay into as opposed to just making like a deck online and everything. Um, and the reason I built this deck, even though it's 2016 and people keep saying Persona has no place in the meta, blah, 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 is because I really don't care about the meta game. I don't care about it in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't care about it in Weiss. It's especially good that Weiss, you don't necessarily need to play all the meta decks. Like, for example, you don't need to play Con to be really good at this game. You just have to have really good game mechanics, as opposed to Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like everyone let's play Cosmos and Pepe back in the day when it was full powered and whatever. What I like about this game is that you could play whatever deck you like just because you like it, and in a game that's pretty much based off of the idea of waifu wars, because let's face it, like this game has a lot of anime girls in it, and I guess video game girls. um, you can play with a deck that's based off of someone that you really like, or a character that you like, or a series that you like, and it'll still be relatively playable. Like, you always hear those stories about people who run into tournament and regionals with trial decks and they do really well. That's something I like about this game, is that it really boils down to how well you can play, card games. And you don't need to, play the meta necessarily. Um, and yeah, I made this deck because I really liked Persona 4. I actually only played it this past year. And I decided that, they made Weiss cards for Persona 4. And I'm going to make one off of who I thought was my best girl in the game, Yukiko. And that's because Yukiko was always in my party. She was always, saving me from utter destruction using salvation almost every other turn. And I think it's important that when you play this game, you kind of understand the series, because there are always those people who play the meta, but they've never seen the anime or the game that it's from. And to me personally, that's kind of like someone going up to you and saying, "Oh yeah, I love playing Super Mario games. My favorite character is Sonic." And it's just it's not right, it's not cool with me. Um, I do know people that play that way, and while I disagree with it, I will fully support them. But with that being said, that's more of an ethical thing. Let's get down into the deck profile with the ratios. So starting off our level 0 game, we're going to start with the card that'll pretty much explain the rest of it. So we're going to start off with 4 copies of Chie and Yukata, and this is going to be our main attacker. It's going to gain... so when it goes into battle, either being attacked or attacking, you mill the top card of your deck. If it is a level 0 character specifically, so climaxes don't count, it gets +1 level and plus 1500. So this is going to be our answer to level reversers. It's going to be our answer to towers at level 0, etc., etc. This is going to be pretty much the main level 1 gameplay. And to support that, we have 2 cards. We're going to have Teddie and Yukata, and this is going to be the Global 500 on the opponent's turn. And every time you play an event, you can give 1,000 to a character, and this works up to 3 times per turn. To further boost that Chie, we have 4 copies of Yukiko Amagi. This one, you can rest this card to give this Chie 1,500. So let's say you have 2 of these in the back row, rest both of them, give it 3,000, and it could pretty much almost run over, like, level 1s with effects, which are usually like 5,500. And yeah, this one also does have the added bonus of being a weird level 0 climax combo. So when the climax is played, scoring a hot stud, you pay 1, and then you salvage Yukiko and Konohana Sakuya, which we'll explain a little bit later on. It's weird because it's level 0. I've personally never found it useful, but to be honest, none of the climaxes in this, or climax combos in this deck are very useful. Lastly, we have our utility level 0 promise with Allies Yukiko. This is going to be our salvage brainstormer, 1 cost and rest this card. pretty much from the get-go, if you're able to afford it every turn, I would recommend doing this every other turn, but we'll go over that in strategies. So yeah, we have 4 copies of 4 different cards, and that comprises our whole level 0 run. Moving on to our level 1, we run 4 copies of the Imperious Queen of Executions, Yukiko Amagi. This one's going to have, when there are 3 or more Japanese close or fan characters out, it gets plus 500 power and hand encore. We're going to run 4 copies of Finish with a Single Blow Yukiko. When this card is placed on the stage, you choose one of your opponent's cards and rest it. And then when this card is placed from your hand onto the stage, you pay 1 cost and salvage the event card, Inedible Curry, which we're also going to run 4 of. This one turns all your cards into bombers, and then if your opponent has no standing characters, you take 1 card from their waiting room, put it at the top of their deck, pretty much ensuring that extra squeeze of damage. And yeah, that's going to be our level 1 run. Moving on to our level 2s. We run 4 copies of Yukiko and Yukata. This is going to give 1,000 to all Japanese close and fan characters. And you can rest this card to rest one of your opponent's cards. And the best effect of this card, it's going to be a change card where at the beginning of your draw phase, you add this card back to your hand, and then you pay 2 and change into your level 3 game, which is going to be a big part of our strategies later on when I explain them. Then we run 4 copies of Yukiko and Konohana Sakuya. This is going to be, so when this card is placed from your hand to the stage, you can scrap this Yukiko Amagi card to play that card at 0 cost. It's got 2 soul attached to it. Otherwise, it would be 2 costs. Sorry, that's the big thing, and you don't want to pay 2 costs for this card. When this card is placed from the hand to the stage, rest one of your opponent's cards, and it gains 500 for each of your opponent's rested characters. Lastly, finishing up our level 2, we have Yukiko and Amaterasu, or Amaterasu. It's said differently in the game. It's said differently in Naruto, blah, blah, blah. This one is going to be a level 2 cost with 2 soul. If your opponent has no standing characters, this card gains 2,000, making it 10,000 level 2. And when this card attacks, it climax combos with Salvation to salvage a character. And that's our level 2. Moving on to our level 3. We run 4 copies of the only level 3 that this deck has to offer, Young Okami Yukiko. This one is pretty much going to be the main centerpiece of the deck, with its effect being when this card attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is a fan or Japanese close character, deal 1 damage to your opponent, which in my opinion is just really, really good. I mean, in SAO, I would want to say the comparative card would be Beacon of Hope Asuna, and that's only on play, and that's only if the damage is canceled. So this is just a free burn for, just because you feel like it. And then it also gets hand encore just automatically, so it's not a condition like the level 1. Moving on to our climaxes, we run very limited climaxes, both of them being 1k1 gates. Let's see, we got 4 salvation and 4 scoring a hot stud. These are gonna be our climaxes pretty much because the combos and because they're red. And as a Yukiko deck, it's got to run Yukiko cards. So with the lineup being listed, let's move on to the main strategies of the deck. So at level 0, this is pretty much going to be your front row character. The only other reason you'd have any of the other cards as your front row characters is because you're running out of options and you need stock. Otherwise, she's going to be your front row character, with the back row characters supporting her being these 2 guys. So again, this gives 500 global in your opponent's turn, and then it gives 1,000 to a character 3 times a turn whenever you play an event. This one, you rest this card to give this power. Again, that's going to be your main power swing, resting this card or multiples of this card to give this card power and run over things. And yeah, that's pretty much the level 0 game. The last part of the level 0 game that we're going to try and do, if it is a possible, stock option, is you're going to play this card, and you're going to try your best to continually brainstorm as much as you can to build hand advantage. Because again, this deck doesn't have clock encore like other sets do. It has just a bunch of hand encore. So you're going to want to try and keep your hand at a healthy 7 if it's possible. So this deck, you're pretty much going to be clocking every turn. You're going to try and salvage as much as you can. And this is the card that I use at level 0 to help clean out a stock if I've got, way too many climaxes in there. So yeah, you're trying to build hand advantage continuously with this card. So since it's that important to the strategy, I'm just going to keep it up there so everyone can remember. Your main level 1 game is going to be her. She's going to have the hand encore and the plus 500 power when there are 3 other Japanese clothes or fan characters out. And pretty much she's going to be your means of sustainable stock building in this deck. You're going to play pretty much her situationally because, again, you can pay for 1 to search for the event card. And then when this card is placed from the hand to the stage, you rest a character you rest one of your opponent's characters, sorry, but that's irrelevant at level 1, so we'll bring that back on level 2. Again, this card, very situational. If you need to bomb something, you can attach this to her, and then have her bomb something, and then hand encore her back. Hopefully she's big enough that she could just run over most things at level 1, but this is a good option. And again, now that you can play this card, you have access to the guaranteed damage from when your opponent only has rested characters. You can put a card from their waiting room to the top of the deck. And unless you're you choose a climax or something, which wouldn't make any sense, you're pretty much going to guarantee that 1 damage is sticking. And yeah, the level 1 game is getting her out. Again, you're going to keep trying to brainstorm to add cards to your hand. When you're level 0, the cards you're going to try and add to your hand are this one. And again, this is your main level 1 play. What sticks in your back row is still going to be your level 0 game. More often than not, it'll be this guy. Because now that you have access to the level 1 event, you can start beefing up by 1,000 power for each level 1 event that you play. So he's going to be a good back row for your level 1 game. I can't say too much about her. The only other reason you'd keep her in the back row, since she would literally do nothing for the most part, is because she's a Japanese clothes / fan character. So she'll add on to the required number to give this one hand encore. Other than that, yeah, again, this is the big play for level 1. So when you're at level 1, again, you're brainstorming, but this time you're brainstorming for at least 2 copies of this card. So moving on to level 2, hopefully you have some copies of her in your hand so that you can play her. Ideally, you'd have 2. If that's a possible, if it's possible if you have the cards in your hand. Otherwise, your level 2 strategy is going to consist of having her out and then getting her out. So again, this card, it's a level 2 with 2 costs, but if you have this card out, you can scrap it and play this for free. And that's pretty much the main reason we run 4 of this card, because nothing is, I guess, for this deck and for this particular set. For level 2, getting this card out, no cost. It could be as beefy as 9,500 without any sort of backups. But then you have this one, which gives 1,000. So it has the potential to be really, really big for no cost whatsoever. And when it comes to attacking at level 2, you can stick with the level 1 game with the hand encore, if that's something, you keep salvaging and then you have enough cards in your hand. Otherwise, to run things over, if your opponent's also at level 2, you're going to be switching to this one. So you'd ideally have something like that after, getting it for free. And you're going to beef it up with these 2 in the back. And that's going to be pretty much the main level 2. The only reason that you'd have this card out is if you, honestly, there isn't really a good reason for it. As an experimental deck, I've been trying to see if that climax combo is worth it. Otherwise, I'd be switching it out with this card. This card is a 2. It's only 1 cost, which is really good. And when this card attacks or is attacked, you can mill the top card of the deck. And if it's level 1 or higher, this card gains 1,500 power. So pretty much a big power boost. Again, this card's in the deck because Yukiko and because fun and logic don't make any sense with theme decks. And it has the climax combo. That's the only really reason this is in here. More often than not, this either ends up being hand-on core fodder for me, or it ends up in the clock. But yeah, that's the main level 2 play. So now again, you're using this card, the brainstorming one, to just add cards to your hand at this point, because at this point we're prepping for a level 3 game, which has hand-on core. So this is the level 3 game. Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. Let me go back, actually. I missed something. So at level 2, you're going to have her in the back row. You'll have maybe like 1 or 2 of her in the front row, you know, whatever. Maybe even just 1 in case you can only get it out once. But at the beginning of your draw step, you are going to pay the change costs. So at this point, hopefully you've been attacking enough with her, or with her, or if somehow by some means you've just been able to stick out this card every single time, her. If you've been able to build up the stock for it, you should be able to pay the change cost, which is going to be pay 2, and then add this card back to your hand, and then get out her in its place. And this is also going to help your level 2 game, because you get her out early. Unless the other person is like shooting into memory or something, this is going to be a really good thing to get at level 2, because then you just start burning them for damage really, really early. And not only that, you know, you can put her up in your center stage, but then you can also play this one back. So pretty much that's the swing. So again, you're going to go this at level 2, next step, pay 2, put this back in your hand, fish this from your waiting room, which is, again, why we were milling. This is another big reason why we were milling, is to get this in the waiting room. And then stick this out on the front lines, bam, pop that one down, and then at this point, this is going to be 11-5, which is already huge, and it has hand-on core, which is pretty great. And yeah, eventually, at level 2, if you're not getting super soul rushed, you're going to end up with a board that sort of looks like this. So this is pretty much burning for, it's pretty much burning for 3 every single turn, and it's 1 burn 3 times, so it's not like you're burning for like a lot at any one time and it'll get like damage canceled. And then not only that, you're also attacking with 2 soul for each one, so pretty much at that point, you know, you can hurt someone really, really bad when it comes to the soul. And not only that, but it also works with this card, because if they don't have any rested characters, you know, just put one at the top of their deck, guaranteed burn. So this is pretty much going to be our setup, even going into level 3. So if the only difference between level 2 and level 3 in this deck for me is that if this card's in your hand, you can play it, versus the change, which requires it to be in the waiting room. But yeah, level 2, level 3, they look very, very similar. I really don't know what else you'd keep in your back row, aside from maybe this dude, if you plan on sticking out the event a lot. Oh, and yes, she has hand-on core, regardless, so she doesn't need the whole, you know, conditional thing to have hand-on core. So you can play her with the Curry card, and pretty much nuke something, bring her back with hand-on core, and then just keep using her the next turn. And this is going to be your sustainable game from level 2 onwards. But yeah, those are the main strategies of the deck. Hopefully by the time you have this set up, you know, you're just burning them and hitting them for game, pretty much. Because if everything sticks, because you're going to hit for 1 damage 3 times from burn, and then you're going to hit for 2 damage plus whatever you trigger 3 more times. So that's already sort of like 6 attacks in there. And that's just really, really good. But yeah, that's the main play of the deck. So for strengths and weaknesses with this deck, we're going to start off with the weaknesses, because, you know, in 2016, this game has already been out in English for like 3 years already. There are a lot of sets that have come out already. The main weakness of this deck is that it lacks a lot of utility that the other decks do. I mean, it doesn't have anything, you know, stupidly broken like Compass. It doesn't have great climax combos. It just misses a lot of things that the new stuff has. And it really shows that there is sort of like a power creep in terms of effects for this game. But again, like I said earlier, it doesn't mean it's out of the running. It just means it's going to be a little bit harder for it to be really good for you. Some of the effects, they're just really weak. There are stronger versions out there in other, in other decks like this one. There are global 500s at level 0 that give 500 regardless, like Worrying Mako from the Kill a Kill set. Level 0 Climax combo, again, that's just weird in general. I'd arguably say this is actually a good card, even still today, because you're milling and you're also running over things or getting around level reversers. This is still good because it's a pay 1, rest this card, as opposed to a pay 1, rest 2. Other weaknesses with this deck, I'd say the fact that it doesn't search at all makes it difficult to deal with, because pretty much everything has to be in your waiting room for any of your effects to, do any sort of salvaging. So she salvages via climax combo. She salvages a event card. Salvages via climax combo. And salvages, and all our climaxes are salvages. So this deck doesn't search at all, which kind of sucks, because it means that at level 0, you're kind of praying that you draw into whatever you need, because there's no way for you to search it out. Likewise, with going into level 1, you hope that either the Brainstormer or you drew into your level 1 game. Hopefully at level 1, though, you've milled enough cards with this Brainstormer so that you can pretty much salvage anything you need to prep for level 2 or later. But yeah, this deck does not salvage, which kind of... all it does is salvage. It does not search, which kind of sucks. Another big thing about this deck that sucks in comparison to what's out currently is that all the cards have Hand Encore versus Clock Encore, which is the big thing now, because Clock Encore is free. There's no real cost to it, except, possibly getting a climax in your clock or whatever. But at level 1, that's not a big deal. You're going to level up anyways. Hopefully, at that point, you've got your level 2 game figured out. This deck also, its levels 2s are okay at best. That one is just garbage. Honestly, this one is just not good. To be completely honest with you, we run it for the climax combo, and because it's a fan character, so it works with the burn effect, which requires that it be a fan or a Japanese closed character. So that's the only reason we run this card. Aside from that, I'd say those are the biggest weaknesses. Since all the cards in this deck minus the climaxes are fan or Japanese close, you don't run into the problem of the burn going through unless you mill a climax or something like that. Other ways I could see this deck sucking is that this isn't a spammable Brainstorm, and this deck for the most part doesn't have spammable effects, meaning that if you have cards that are stuck in your stock, like climaxes, getting them out will be very, very difficult, and you're gonna have to pay costs like the stupid three cost Encore to get those things out. But yeah, those are the main flaws with the deck. I guess it doesn't have a level reverser, so you pretty much have to topple it over somehow with a combination of her and her at level 0. Yeah, those are the main cons with the deck. There's quite a few of them, again, because this is a relatively old deck, being, I guess, for us, 2014. And then, yeah, stuff like Kantai came out, or Sword Art Online, or Log Horizon, which I've never personally played or seen played before, but apparently it's anti-burn, so it kind of nukes this deck's level 3 game. But I haven't heard of anything else being anti-burn. So if you've heard of something, feel free to throw it in the comments. Help me learn, what the meta is and stuff like that. Because I really just play decks that I think are fun. But moving on to the strengths of this deck, it has mad salvaging, which is really good for you because you're always trying to add cards to your hand to prep for the Hand Encore for her, or to prep for the hand anchor for her, or it lets you search out things you've already gotten rid of. So let's say you have her in hand, you're level 2, you're gonna want to salvage for her, and she's in your waiting room at that point. Another good thing about salvaging is that if you keep adding cards to your hand, you can selectively discard which ones go to the waiting room. So I've found myself in situations where I had like 7 cards in hand. I'd clock. I'd have 8. I'd be at level 2, and I would have this in hand, which is nothing at level 2. So I'd just scrap her at the end, and then by my next draw phase, bam, her change into level 3. Another good thing about this deck is that I really like the Brainstormers that do the whole 1 cost rest this card thing. I feel like it's just really good to only need to rest 1 versus 2, because then if you had 2 of her out, you can get 2 of the effects off. This card's a really good pro. This is just such a weird card to have in any set anywhere. Like, turning anything into a bomber is crazy, but being able to turn a level 3 with Hand Encore into a bomber is just nuts. Like, the only other combination of cards I think that could do that are like a Liz Gun combo from the Sword Art Online set. So being able to turn anything into that is just, it's crazy. Being able to secure that 1 damage if your opponent has no standing characters is crazy. And this deck is just crazy in a very different kind of way. Lastly, I just gotta say, this deck, for anyone who's starting this game and is kind of looking for a budget deck, this deck is super budget. I mean, she's like only $5 a piece. All of these are like quarters. Maybe she's like $2 still. Quarters. Maybe like $1. Not even worth 25 cents. I think she was like $2 when I picked her up. Your level 3 game is only like $6, quarter, and then she's also like $6 just because they're the double R's, and the climaxes are, like $1. So this is a really budget deck. I think it's really fun to be able to burn every single turn, and then the weird change where it adds it back to your hand as opposed to you putting it in the waiting room or something like that. It's really cool that you could play the same card on the same turn, and then like it has the added extra boost effect and everything. But yeah, this deck is totally budget. For any of my other homies out there that think Yukiko is best girl, pick up this deck. It's pretty fun. It's really cheap. And with that being said, that completes the deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know when I went to a place, they were all giving me crap about, this deck isn't meta, it's not very good. But you know what? My favorite character from Mario is not Sonic. And I liked Persona 4, and I wanted to make the deck. So for those people who, are going to tell you, oh, this deck sucks, blah, 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 it's a freaking card game. Like, have fun with it. If you're going to spend your money, at least, like, try to, enjoy what you're doing. And I definitely enjoyed making this deck. Hopefully you guys, got some sort of insight about card games, Mario games, Sonic games, etc., etc. With that being said, this is my Yukiko burn deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, take it easy.